It might sound odd cause Fauxmanda dies in this episode, but this is my favorite episode of season 2. For me in season 1 it was not that obvious with the flash-forward episode. Because I loved the flashback episode 120 so much and the finale was strong. Spoiler alert 1. But the final episode of this season with the explosion of Grayson Global was not that strong for me. Spoiler alert 2. The only thing that really hit me and was the worst cliffhanger of Revenge was that Emily told Jack the truth who she really is. But the whole plot about Falcon, the blackout and the initiative was just so dull. It even did not matter that the blackout was for all New York City and that this office building looked a lot like the Twin Towers. For me this kind of plot was just cheap theatrics. Spoiler alert 3. But this one here with Fauxmanda dying in Emily's arms and Jack being in hospital seriously injured really hit me. And it was clever that Padma's storyline was interwoven with this. So the initiative plot did not steal Fauxmanda's fate the show. And the flash-forward was clever with the male dead body. Event how most of the audience and I did not expect Jack to die, you could not know for sure. Like with Daniel in season 1. No one was safe on this show. What they made clear with Fauxmanda's death in this season and spoiler alert, the death of Aiden and Daniel in the following seasons. And I really loved Emily's monologue in this. It is a great tribute to Fauxmanda and their friendship that her death is something like a sacrifice for love and friendship. And her death is a sacrifice for Emily, too. 'Cause in order to take down the Graysons she sacrifices the one person she loved the most. First Fauxmanda and later Aiden. This montage shows why this episode is just so good. The transition from the wreck with the photo to the happy newlywed couple having sex is just so heartbreaking. 'Cause you know their happy times won't last long and it will happen a terrible thing. And watching it twice the effect is just stronger. About the compass and Fauxmanda's necklace. And I just adore the use of props here. With this subtle shot of the compass Emily gave Jack in season 1 you have built that image of Emily's loss and what it means if she had to face Jack's death. And the flashback with the necklace Amanda gave Emily before they part in UV. It is just so sweet how the two bond over this. These two girls had it not easy in life, but they found someone who would be always there for them. They are really like sisters at the end of this journey. Another thing I hate in general on modern TV shows and night scenes. Why they are always this blue and dark. In Revenge it is not as bad as in TV shows and movies with really much special effects. But it always annoys me that you cannot see anything or any details in those dark night scenes. I mean it is nice that they go for authenticity, but if they would shoot without any lights on you just would see a black screen. So why they are trying so desperate to show that it is dark? Maybe this is a reason why I love those kind of shows without all those supernatural effects more. Because they have not that much night shoots out in the open. At night the people are mostly having dinner inside or we have a big party with many lights on. Or Emily is just plotting in her cozy beach house with the lights on. So no problem here, but in this episode we often have this very dark water and the night sky at the ocean. So it is very dark. It gives you this lost feeling and adds to the hopelessness of the situation and the atmosphere of course. About Victoria's plan. In this scene Victoria not only shows how ruthless she is, it also establishes again how smart she is and what capabilities this woman is to save herself and her family. While Daniel is in shock and Conrad feels doomed and just says she slaughtered them all with one bullet. Another great quote from Conrad in season 2. She is the one who finds a quite good and imaginative solution for this problem. I wonder if they had that in mind when they made the first ambassador of the initiative a woman or if they just were lucky. About Daniel's reaction to all this. It is telling that he is that shocked and disappointed by his parents after they go on as nothing happened. But later when they all think they got rid of Amanda, he does not disagrees when Victoria tells him that the girl chose the wrong enemy. He seems not to be that sad and shocked about Amanda's death as he is here. And Helen was someone who wanted to kill him, so you could say it was only self-defense on Victoria's side. If you are very generous with that term. I was really proud about his little speech here. Again, I would have liked to see him join Team Emily in season 2. That would have been a far better story arc for him. Maybe his story would have ended the same way. Spoiler alert, he just would have sacrificed himself far earlier and for Emily's revengender, I think. But his dark side would not have been that prominent as it was in the last half of season 2 and in season 3. He would have proven that he could be better than his parents. But I guess this was not in for Joshua Bowman as they decided to make him bad at the end of season 1. I like that he confronts his parents right away. Seems he finally is following his bad conscience. I like that he takes the point of view of the audience and even defends Amanda's revengender. He tells them everything Emily and the audience would have to say to the Graysons. And Fauxmanda's fate seems to be inevitable now that both Conrad and Victoria finally have chosen her to take the fall. What is telling, too, is that Conrad seems to be more concerned about his political career than going into jail. He really seems to be unafraid, maybe because of Nate Ryan. But should he not be concerned about going to prison for everything he has done and Amanda has obviously proofs for? Instead, like a real politician, he just cares for the damage of his image. About the Zoom conference of Emily, Aiden and Nolan. Funny how trending this scene is after a pandemic. I myself have not been that much in home office and getting now a headset with a camera for my computer at work. But all my colleagues are so into this now that you really wonder how it will go without in the next couple of years. But watching it the first time, I found this scene pretty much ridiculous. I get that they want to show us how geeky Nolan is in order to make it more plausible that he wrote this carrion program. And they need a plausible explanation how Aiden and Emily can be in touch instead of the fact that she broke up with him in public and is gonna be back together with Daniel soon. They cannot always meet at the beach for the fear that someone, especially Victoria, sees them together and goes straight to Daniel. Spoiler alert. Though I liked this little dance in season 3 when Victoria tries to sabotage Emily with Aiden's help. That was one of my favorite storylines in the first half of season 3. Another thing about the actual topic of their conversation. I was happy to see Aiden back on track. And his proposition to help Padma was something I would have expected from Nolan. It is too bad that Aiden has absolutely no luck in this season. Despite starting strong with saving Emily from Gordon Murphy in the first episode and helping her dealing with her mother. Everything he has done since Emily's mother took off did gone wrong. He failed saving his sister and thank God killing Victoria. Spoiler alert 1. He shreds his friendship with Daniel because of his jealousy. Spoiler alert 2. And he fails at saving Padma's father and is partly responsible for her being kidnapped by the Initiative. Spoiler alert 3. Last but not least, he and Nolan help the Initiative unintentionally with the blackout as they zero out the Grayson's bank account. So Aiden is definitely the worst ally of Emily in season 2. About Ashley searching for Emily's help. Another unexpected ally who finally finds her conscience back. I like that Ashley goes over to Emily in need of help for the Porter couple. If I would not know better, I would say she has a little crush on Jack. The way she smiled at him and greeted him with the words "what a pleasant surprise" was kind of odd. Since we had not seen the two together in season 2 till that scene. Maybe an off-screen romance between the two? Or a possible hookup they did not consider in season 1? Anyway, I was happy that she filled Emily with all the information she needed to help Fauxmanda in this situation. She immediately understands the grievance of Fauxmanda's fault. I think what Ashley overheard about Helen's death and Conrad colluding with Nate Ryan was the last drop. She just wants to save herself, and it seems that covering up a murder is her line. Another reason why this episode stands out is the thriller aspect. I think the flash forward was such a great success because they always centered around the question who did it. A classical whodunit structure. Jack finding Nate's cigarettes is just a little detail that fits into this pattern. As I said before, revenge is at its best when we get to see those things rather than any one of the characters telling us what to believe or feel. I like Fauxmanda's role in this. Again, she is far more brave and ahead of the situation as Jack. She knows they have to kill Nate to stop him. What I really enjoyed, though it meant trouble between Jack and Nolan later, was that he and Emily are working together to save the Porters. Nolan's skilled in hacking and tracking people really comes handy in this situation, and he shows off his whole expertise. I do not know if Emily could have done it without Nolan's help, and it is good for him that he was the one who saved Jack, not Emily. About Nate's phone call with Conrad. Again, Conrad shows how little he thinks of women. He is really a misogynist. No wonder that he and Nate get along that good. They share a common worldview, so his disguised contract killing is perfectly understood by Nate. I like Conrad being the big bad because the role suits him. Spoiler alert, besides Pascal in season 3, what was some kind of personal revenge. Conrad never got his hands dirty. He always had someone else, either from the initiative or his own contractors, for the job. So his hands were always clean and someone else had to pay the price. I love how Fauxmanda and Jack are stalling time. First with her story about revenging, which is actual true because that is Amanda's story, but she is the wrong Amanda. And later with this fake marriage quarrel that distracts Nate. About Victoria coming over and framing Fauxmanda. In this, Conrad and Victoria are on the same page. While he is trying to neutralize Amanda, as he would say, Victoria is framing her for the murder on Helen Crowley. It is really the same as they did with David, and again Victoria is willing to sacrifice the life of a clerk to get scot-free, as Fauxmanda pointed out. And her alibi, getting Charlotte to come back with her and taking baby Carl with her because it is too hot without any air conditioning, is just so impudent. Victoria is framing the mother of this baby but yet makes believe she wants to help the family. It is weird. You love to hate those people for the despicable things they do. But at the same time you wish for them to be punished, which would end the story you like to watch. I think that was always the problem of revenge. It is thrilling and nice to see these people doing bad things to each other and increasing the amount of hatred and guilt. But you also wish to end this vicious cycle so order and justice is installed again. That was the field of tension here. You wish to see more of that stuff and got addicted, but you cannot stand it being happening at the same time. Like any good guilty pleasure show. About Padme and Aiden. This was a nice pairing they put up since Nolan was occupied with Emily saving Jack and Fauxmanda. I think it was a good choice letting Nolan help Emily and not Aiden. First, we have not seen the two together that much in season 2. And second, he is more attached to Jack and Fauxmanda since he was there in season 1 when she appeared for the first time. Not to forget, he was the officiant at their wedding. Since Aiden was kind of Emily's second love interest after Jack. Fauxmanda is also some kind of a rivalry for Emily's affection. Event how she is now married to Jack, Emily and Fauxmanda still had a deep connection. And on Fauxmanda's side, I think there is much more than friendship and sisterhood. In season 1 there was always this underlining theme of loving attraction between Emily and Amanda. I think Emily used this to some extent when the two were younger. But for her it never got beyond a sisterly love. However, I am sure that she loved Fauxmanda more than Charlotte, who is actually her sister. Anyway, since both Jack and Fauxmanda are competitors for Aiden, it was good that he was not involved in rescuing them. I do not think that he would refuse to help since he knows what the two mean for Emily. But he surely would not have been that much into it as Nolan is. Who would risk his own life to save either Jack or Amanda? Talking about his sister and helping Padma is also a good strategy to keep him occupied and cope with the loss of Colleen. He can help Padma, who is in a similar situation, and can contribute to the goal of taking the initiative down for once and for all. I know they had to show us how dangerous the initiative can be. Especially cause Padma's plot goes in competition with the violent end of Fauxmanda. But sending her the finger of her father via mail was just so creepy even for a terror organization. And how could they know she could check a fingerprint? It is not something you have lying around in the kitchen or at the office. That scene was just so ridiculous, and I must admit that I admire Barry Sloane and Dilshad Vadzaria for their serious performance with this crap writing. The only reason why this scene is not at all feeling unintentionally funny is the strong performance of these two actors. The writers got really lucky that they got this fantastic cast who could pull off such things and in some kind save such scenes. His look at her and her reaction is just so simple and true. About Jack getting shot. I was so rooting for them since they made it this clever. They showed teamwork and almost got away. So I was really devastated as Jack got shot. It was smart of the writers to let both be in danger of dying. Till the end of the episode you could not tell if only Fauxmanda, Jack or both would be dying. Even though Fauxmanda was a pretty obvious choice, you could not be 100% sure. What was even worse that both got seriously injured by accident. Jack got hit by a ricochet, and if Fauxmanda would not have climbed back on the boat for her damn necklace, she would have been saved. About the editing. On second or third watch it is annoying seeing those intercuts and reactions of Emily and Nolan. But I remember first seeing it, this gave the whole sequence more thrill and gave us as the audience more time to process what we just saw. This episode had two most heartbreaking moments for me. The first was of course Emily's promise and Fauxmanda's death scene, which we will see later. And the second was her goodbye to Jack. She is literally sacrificing her life for Jack. Not to overdo the comparisons here, but it is like in Titanic with Jack's namesake who dies in the cold water while his love Rose can be saved. And like in Titanic, you cannot understand why there is only space for one. Was it impossible for Fauxmanda to jump right into the boat and get that stupid rope away from the inside? Surely no, but she had to stay and Jack had to lose her like Rose had to lose Jack in that night. And her fight together with Emily against Nate was surely something I would not have liked to miss out. What a cat Fauxmanda is. She nearly died at the beginning of this season. And in this episode we thought at least 3 times she would die. First when Nate showed her the gun, then later when she was lying on the ground, and at last when the boat finally did explode. Though I did not like that the Labour Party was a side plot in this episode. I definitely enjoyed the cutting from the Porters fighting for their life to the extravagant Grayson party and Conrad's proclamation. This really makes you hate the Graysons more than everything they have done so far. And I love Victoria's look for the party. Her black hair in contrast to her red lipstick and dress really looks great. And her color choice is telling since she herself admits having blood on her hands. In season 1 she wore innocent white to the party and Emily showed in red. About Fauxmanda fighting for her life. This girl really made me root for her till the very end. How smart and clever she is trying to sink the boat and making a weapon out of a can. I do not know if I would have the nerves and be that brave to come up with all this. She is in the same kind resilient and resourceful as Emily. And I like that she is not giving up. Most people would have done it in the moment when Jack got shot and she stayed with his presumably murder. But Fauxmanda is no victim. We know it since Daniel told us in season 1 that Emily got to jail for defending herself in front of an abusive foster father. That is the story of the real Emily Thorne. And when she killed Frank to save Amanda, Fauxmanda showed how far she is willing to go. So it was the more sad and unreal seeing her actually die in this episode. About Trask as the new ambassador of the initiative. If I thought it could not get any worse, I was wrong. This Trask guy is even more creepy and strange as Helen Crowley was. I do not know what they had in mind with these characters. Should they be just creepy so they would make the initiative look more frightening? I like Conrad's wordplay here, even though it is an inside joke. I love how he refers to Fauxmanda as Thorne in their side. Since Emily Thorne is her real name and the real Amanda who is behind all that is actually known to him as Emily Thorne. His little explanation makes everything seem so simple and clear. But in fact everything they say is not only a big lie, it also unfolds all the plot holes of season 2. Gordon Murphy being married to Amanda's mother Cara Clarke. How could the initiative be ignorant of that? Emily gathering information about the initiative and working together with Aiden without getting into their radar. And last but not least, Fauxmanda not being the real Amanda Clarke and using all that evidence not to frame Conrad or take revenge on him. How could she not use all this evidence, and how could the initiative, if they are truly that powerful, not see how Emily aka Amanda was plotting all this? About Emily trying to rescue Fauxmanda. I like her surprise appearance. The whole sequence just screams do not mess with these girls. I love how bossy Emily is in this scene. She immediately takes control and Amanda obeys here. As if she is not only happy to see her but happy that somebody takes care. One of my favorite quotes of Emily is that she tells Nate he would never know who she is. 'Cause that is actually the case with him and the other powerful man who was behind this attack on the Porters. Till the end Conrad does not know that Emily is the daughter of his archenemy. Otherwise than Victoria he is totally in the dark and genuinely surprised that Emily was behind all of that. The most thing I enjoyed with Nate's end is that Fauxmanda was saving Emily by shooting him. She is really the heroine of this episode and it is a great tribute to Margarita Levieva who I really missed on season 3. Louise in season 4 was a nice addition and some kind of substitute for her. But in season 3 we had no character which could compensate her loss. Margout was nice but no real surrogate for her complex yet lovable character. And she had a totally different character profile. But we get to her soon enough in the next season. About the explosion. I know it was very stupid of her going for that necklace, but I really liked what they did here. I cannot recall if she wore that necklace already in season 1, but I think I saw it multiple times on her. Another thing I totally adored in Revenge, and I think I told you already in the pilot episode, is the use of props. First of all, Emily's infinity box and the diaries of her father David Clarke. But we had this compass she gave Jack and now the necklace. It gives the story and their relationships more ground that we have those things who remind us of the people we love and have lost. My favorite flashback of Emily and Amanda is the one in which we get to see Amanda giving Emily the necklace. And promise to be there when she gets out of jail, too. I know she already is planning to use this girl for her revenge, but the genuine love we see here is just so heartbreaking.
I love you.
Emily is some kind of a substitute for Amanda's dog Sammy. If you allow me this analogy, I will not say that Emily is some kind of a dog. But her behavior towards Amanda reminds me of the qualities we value, loyalty and an almost absolute imprint as your best friend. Anyway, if you know about the significance this necklace has for Fauxmanda, it is absolutely clear for me that she has to go after it when she sees it. It is not that ridiculous and sad like Gollum with the ring in Lord of the Rings. But it has a great sentimental value, and Fauxmanda just underestimates Nate's ruthlessness. Some things in this episode were over the top, which I liked sometimes. In this case, the close-up of Nate who just will not die and causing the explosion with his lighter is just that. But I like it. This scene reminds me of Cape of Fear with Robert De Niro. In this movie he is a criminal who just came out of prison and wants to take revenge on the lawyer and his family. At the end of the movie there is a showdown on a boat in a storm, I think. And of course Robert De Niro just keeps coming back after them almost 3 times when they believe they already got rid of him. If you think about the explosion and all the scenes on open water, I believe they used a tank like in Titanic. Otherwise it would have been too dangerous, I think. This must have been the most expensive episode of Revenge. And it really feels different in scale, not only with the action and the special effects. Storytelling and emotional moments are at his best in this episode. And I really fell in love with Fauxmanda's theme. On the DVD there is a little featurette about the music in which iZler, who was responsible for the music in Revenge, talks a bit about his process. By the way, I like those little behind-the-scenes featurettes since Lord of the Rings. I think Peter Jackson was the first who did such a thing, like an audio commentary and all those documentary stuff and Easter eggs. It is some kind of sad that with all the streaming platforms that is something we did not get to see that often. I recently saw my old Buffy DVDs with the extras and the cheesy DVD menu, which was very nice and in some kind nostalgic. Anyway, iZler told us how he was experimenting with instruments like the violins and other things that can create sound but is an everyday object. So he created this sad and some kind of eerie sound for the musical theme of Fauxmanda. But my all-time favorite montage is the scene at the end with Fauxmanda's death and Conrad Grayson announcing to run as governor for New York. They could ended the farce with the initiative plot right here, and go all in on Conrad as the big bad, what they at least managed to do for the next season, which was a huge relief on my side. Conrad is just such a great choice as a villain. He may be not that complex as Victoria and some kind of one-dimensional. But I like that. With him you can be sure that he would do anything to please his need for power with no remorse. I know Victoria was the one who killed Helen Crowley, but she did it for her son. And even though she is as ruthless as Conrad when her survival instinct is on and she goes against Amanda, till season 4 when she is totally losing it, there is some consciousness and sense for right and wrong left with her. Not only that she mourns for David and cannot forgive Conrad that he killed this man when it would have been sufficient in her mind to let him rot in prison, she also never crossed the line of being responsible for the death of a person. Till Helen, it was all her husband who took care of things like Lee Moran, who was in season 1 the first victim on the show that Conrad had killed, and he is the mastermind behind the David Clarke trial. It might be Victoria's initial idea and she helped him frame her beloved David. But all the conspirators and the evidence came from Grayson Global and surely were handpicked by Conrad. So if you think about, Conrad is really the biggest target for Emily, though she never had that much scenes with him till season 3. Another reason why I enjoyed the next season so much, her fake relationship with Conrad when she takes care of him in the first couple of episodes. It really must have hit him out of nowhere that this nice and seemingly innocent daughter-in-law was behind all of the bad things that happened to the Graysons. But I stray too far. We still have some episodes left for this season. About color schemes again. Rewatching this I am noticing how they stole Emily's red revenge color. Not only Victoria but Charlotte as well is wearing red. And since the men cannot wear red suits they have red ties. A fitting comment to the fact that the Graysons have blood on their hands with the murder of Fauxmanda. Subtle but also a fitting symbol is that Victoria is wearing pearl earrings. Pearls are a symbol of tears and sadness, which is the perfect bridge to this heartbreaking scene with Emily and Margarita. I think it was on the commentary of this episode that Margarita Levieva said she was so captivated by Emily's performance in this scene. And I must admit that till season 3 and 4. Spoiler alert, with the death of her lovers Aiden and Daniel, this was far beyond the best scene of Emily Van Camp on revenge. I like that this scene has some kind of wave structure because the realization that Fauxmanda is dying slowly sinks in. At first Emily is in full saving mode and distracted by getting them both out of the water and saved by Nolan, who will come back with the boat. Fauxmanda already knows that she is dying and tries to get Emily promise her to take care of her little family. I know it is a totally dry out trope, but I loved that Fauxmanda tries to bring Emily and Jack back together with this and just thinks about her family. And it is a nice full circle moment, since as she had fallen of the stairs in Grayson Manor she already told Emily that they should save the baby no matter what. For me that is no TV trope. These are very authentic moments because nothing is more important to Emily and Fauxmanda than having a family of their own. As orphans they feel this need more than other people. In season 3 we have a nice quote of Emily about this psychological pattern. Their conversation in this always hints me how Emily bursts out in this apology. And Fauxmanda gives her the necklace and tells her that she gave her a family. Which is true, since without the identity swap Fauxmanda would probably never had known Jack. She would have still worked in a strip club and throw herself to men who would be no good for her. And the flashback in combination with the two I love yous was just perfect. I do not know who says this in the commentary, but it is interesting for Emily's character. She never told Fauxmanda I love you, too, in response till this moment when it was too late. Like she is only aware of her feelings or can admit her true feelings when it is too late. We see this pattern again in season 3 and 4. She tells Aiden what she feels multiple times when she is afraid to lose him. And in season 4 she can only admit to Jack what she truly feels for him when he was already gone. In a way I think this long-lasting relationship with Fauxmanda was as much important and strong for Emily as her relationship to her dad and Jack. Maybe even stronger, since Fauxmanda had a connection to her revengenda. This last sequence when Fauxmanda is dead and Emily leaves her to the water like her own private funeral always hits me hard. The compilation of music, Emily Van Camp's stunning performance and these wide shots of the dark ocean that create a feeling of loneliness and being lost. It is just the perfect scene. About the scene at the balcony. I am not a big fan of these cupola scenes, but this one had a nice twist and showed us that the Graysons are all in this together. Even Daniel, who asks about Amanda Clarke, does not disagree with his parents that her fate was inevitable. His questions are very good and show that in contrast to his parents he still has some conscience and good left in him, but I also like the slight difference between Conrad's and Victoria's answers. Conrad seems to be happy and content. He shows no remorse or a bad feeling, while Victoria seems to be some kind of weary and fatalistic. She knows what they are doing is wrong, but she thinks they have to do it in order to survive. It is killing or be killed for her. For Conrad it is much simpler. He just thinks that the Grayson family deserves better and has more freedom to do such despicable things cause they are the Graysons. In season 4, when we get to the episode spoiler alert with Daniel's death, I will talk more about this. This one snippet is one of my favorites of this episode. I like the swelling sound of Fauxmanda's theme and the symbol of Emily looking at her real name on the wooden part what is left of the boat. boat. And of course her in this blood-red sea. Even her monologue is on point this time. I love using this quote cause it sums up everything and would have been perfect for the finale as transition to season 3. Cause the next season, at least the last half of it, really felt like finally wrapping up the Revengenda. If this one was hard, the next one gets even more emotional with the repercussions of Fauxmanda's death. But as I said before, I love that they take the time to let the loss sink in, cause like in real life, the realization that someone you love is no longer with you comes in pieces.